This is Taylor. Okay, here he was in the early days of his hair, and here are some pictures of him when the hair was thinning. Here is his comb over that he adopted. We're going to dive all into this stuff. It's really, really good to show you this so you can solve your own balding problem, okay, the same way Taylor did. We're going to dive into it now. I'm going to show you how you go from balding, insecure, unconfident, okay, to bald, confident, secure, happy, high levels of self-esteem. Taylor, okay, top bloke, top guy in Oz, okay, a football player, played in the Olympics, okay, balding to bald. How do you do it? I'm going to walk you through it, okay, step by step. And it's important. I know you want to skip to the end, okay, and just be like, just tell me exactly what I need to do. But one thing that so many people miss, myself included, and this is what I've essentially studied over the last 7 years, is that there's steps to this, okay? Almost every guy that is able to do this, go from balding to bald, does it in a very, very similar way. So I'm showing you this so that you can apply it to your own situation, learn from Taylor's experience, okay? Use it in your own so that you can totally move past balding, literally never worry about it again, feel totally confident in the way you look, okay? No hats, no fibers, no surgery, none of that stuff. You don't need any of it, okay? And I'm going to show you how you can get there. There's a lot to learn in this and I want to share it with you. So the first stage is, of course, the balding discovery. This is how we all begin, okay? My own balding journey included, your balding journey included. It starts with the discovery. Let's see how Taylor got to that point.
22, 23, I started to kind of become slightly aware, whether it be, because I'm quite an active person when it comes to sport and quite a sweater as well. So obviously when it comes to all the moisture and all that stuff, I'd get to a stage where I finished a training, I would kind of look in the mirror and see kind of a little bit of thinning in there and like in the hair and all that stuff. I thought like, well, end of the day, I'm only 20s, it can't be happening to me. And that
So 22 years old, Taylor discovers some thinning. Active guy, like I said, playing football and whatnot. So that's stage one, okay, you discover it. Then very quickly for Taylor, stage two kicks in, which is this kind of bargaining stage, okay? We all know that cycle, the cycle of grief, okay? Very, very similar to the cycle of balding acceptance, okay? We start bargaining. Taylor was like, no, hang on a minute, I'm too young. Maybe something else is going on here. I remember for me, it was like, maybe I'm just stressed. Maybe it's the water. I was living out in China and I was like, maybe it's the light pollution, I even thought. You're scrambling. So we've got stage one is the discovery. Discovery. Stage two, okay, you're going to bargain. Or you're going to look for reasons like, this can't be male pattern baldness.
no, nothing to worry about here. It's just normal. It's just me having wet hair or whatever. And then it got to a stage I went for a run, and I remember one of my family members was like, "Oh, I think your hair's starting to get a little bit thin." And then once I kind of noticed it, started doing a bit of research, understanding of what it was. So at that stage, like most people, you think of it as something as not having to worry about until your 30s and 40s. I got to a stage where it's like, oh, why am I worrying about something? It's an old person's thing. Looked into more into it. It's ticking a lot of boxes what I'm experiencing here when it comes to male pattern baldness. And then it got to a stage where, see bits of hair falling on a table at work.
So in Taylor's example, the bargaining stage for him, okay, maybe my hair's just wet. Maybe this is just stress. Maybe, you want to find other reasons, okay? And this is important to know because I think this goes all into the anxiety of it, which is the true problem with balding, okay? It's all about the anxiety. It's all about the psychology. And so if the problem of hair loss, of balding is psychological, then that should reassure you in the sense that I'm telling you this now. You can completely solve the problem by solving the psychology that's going on up here, okay? And this is really what the acceptance is about. You can probably relate to this to some extent. Maybe in the early days you were scrambling for reasons like, no, maybe it's my diet. So Taylor here has got stress coming into it, but very quickly we're going to reach stage three.
And I got to a stage where I was like, oh, I may as well go to a GP and see what they think. So
Right.
they basically had a look and said, oh, yeah, it's got all the bits and pieces and symptoms that would be associated with male pattern baldness, and suggested that very common for people, in their early 20s. It's not uncommon. Here are some ways that you can potentially subside the symptoms. There's no real way of curing it, I guess. If you want to go down that path, minoxidil is the silver bullet for it just at that stage. I thought, why not give it a try?
So stage 3, confirmation. Okay, reality sets in. This for me very quickly happened within a matter of like 10 minutes. Okay, I went through these first 3 stages, even stage 4 actually, within 20 minutes in my own experience. Okay, but for Taylor it was, a few months. He's bargaining, he's wondering what this is, hoping it's not male pattern baldness. Goes to the doctor, doctor confirms, no bro, it's male pattern baldness. And then stage 4, he kind of already alluded to it then. The doctor was like, here you go, this is what you can do, try some of this minoxidil. And he used a very interesting word there. He mentioned the word symptoms. Okay, this is really good word. Shout out Taylor for using this word. Okay, because obviously you've got these physical sort of symptoms of hair loss, which is the physical hair loss. But again, this is the stuff that people don't focus on, they don't talk about, but is so crucial. If you want to never worry about balding again, you have to be aware of the psychological, okay? Let's just put psych here. The psychological, the mental symptoms, which is really where all of the pain is, boys, okay? All of the pain of balding is psychological. Just think about this now in your own balding experience, in your own balding journey, okay? Has your scalp from the hair loss ever actually caused you physical pain where you're writhing around in bed and you're like, oh, my hair loss is really hurting me, so I can't go outside. Ow, if my hair touches the water, my balding scalp touches the water, it's so painful. Oh, like if someone, no, okay? Hair loss, male pattern baldness does not cause any physical pain whatsoever. That pain that you're feeling, that discomfort, is all mental, all psychological. This is why I'm so pumped, okay, about this stuff that I talk about every single day of my life, okay? How to accept balding, because you can do it with these thoughts, okay? You can do it by your worldview, all of this stuff. It comes from experience. Anyway, we're going to get onto that. I'm getting ahead of myself. But here we go. He mentions the minoxidil that he begins using, and this is normal, no hate, okay, zero hate. This is a part of people's journeys. This was a part of Taylor's journey. Right, what can I do about this? How can I subside the symptoms of hair loss? So for number 4, these symptoms of hair loss set in, and for all of us, okay, if you're here watching this video anyway, is anxiety. This is the biggest thing that you need to know, okay, here, and we're going to hear about Taylor's example. This is where the pain sets in. It's with the anxiety. Okay, so as soon as you've had your male pattern baldness confirmed, your balding confirmed, no bro, you are balding. All of this hope, okay, of the bargaining bit where you're like, maybe it's diet, maybe it's stress, goes out the window. Reality sets in that no bro, you're going bald. Like, this is male pattern baldness. And these symptoms start to occur, the pain sets in, and that's the anxiety. So let's hear first what Taylor's anxieties were.
I think I found a lot of positives using it after a while. Like I think it never stopped everything, but it was kind of like a band-aid onto a bullet hole. It was always inevitable.
Okay, perfect little bit of language there. Band-aid over a bullet hole. I really want you to remember that one. We think of that analogy, gushing with blood in the bullet hole, and you just put a little band-aid over it, and it just, maybe it stops a couple of drops of that blood coming out, but it's still coming out, okay? And that is very much what happens in this next stage. The anxiety sets in, and we reach for these band-aids, which are really known as, and this is really important, this is safety behaviors, okay? Safety behaviors. I love talking about these because this is what happens to all of us, okay? We adopt these safety behaviors, these band-aids, okay? Now, whether it's the routine of minoxidil, whether it's hats, okay? Whether it's hair fibers, whether it's styling, whether it's your thoughts. Okay, this list of safety behaviors is so, so long.
Slowed down the process and made me feel a little bit better about the situation
Made him feel
going into it.
better.
But I think, like most things, once you notice it, it seemingly takes a massive hold of your life. Once I noticed it, it really ate away at me. Just losing my hair was something that I actually weirdly took a control of my life in regards to. It was on my mind for every single thing I did. Waking up in the morning, wherever I was, whether it be, at my own home or at somewhere else, it's like, oh, we'll have to put minoxidil in my hair in the morning. It regimented my entire life and took control in sense of like, kind of stopped me from doing and being myself to a degree. I got to a stage where like, like a lot of people, you look at the weather, if it was over a certain kilometer an hour winds, bring a hat. Because I got to a stage where it was so self-conscious of it that, I thought, well, obviously the smartest thing I did, and no one's ever thought about it, grow it out long and then kind of put a comb over it. No one's going to notice that.
This is so important to know because this, as Taylor is describing here, this what I call the anxiety cycle, okay? This is what no one really talks about. And this is where most balding guys find themselves, okay? These first few stages, sometimes they happen slowly, over many, many years. Sometimes they happen over 20 minutes like it was for me. For Taylor, it was about 6 months. But then he found himself in this anxiety cycle. For Taylor, as we'll play just quickly here,
It was worried about how other people would perceive it.
he was worried about, what other people were going to think, what other people are going to say about his balding. Those were the sort of worries. Like if someone notices this balding, what are they going to think of me? How are they going to perceive me? And this is very, very common stuff for guys when they're balding. Okay, this is where all of this, as I described earlier, let me get another color for you here. This is where all of this psychological pain and anxiety, okay, comes from. For me, again, quickly, I was terrified about someone just calling me out on my balding, like, bro, are you going bald? In front of people. I felt so anxious about how I would react in that situation or not react, that I adopted safety behaviors. Okay, I adopted these safety behaviors, which for me was hiding at the back of the classroom, and which for Taylor was the long fringe. It was the minoxidil use. Because don't forget, okay, what are you really thinking when you're using that minoxidil? You're thinking, right, if this can just hold on to the hair that I've got, or maybe regrow a little bit, if that's what you're thinking it's able to do. Okay, because deep down you know that minoxidil is not a cure. You're right, I can't just put it on my head once and then it takes my balding problem away. That's why really, at its core, it is simply... That's funny. But if you can, in your head, think, oh, this is going to do a good job of like keeping that balding hidden, then what that does is it temporarily reduces your anxiety, okay, reduces the anxiety, that's so important, enough so you can just sort of more comfortably go about your day, okay? You can have less fear that these, fears that you're thinking, like somebody noticing, somebody making a bad comment about your balding, you can go through your day less anxious that they're going to occur, okay? So you can keep going and just sort of get through it. Okay, this is what these safety behaviors are doing. Now, there's a problem here. This is the biggest problem. And this is where guys, like I said, they get in this cycle. Oh, is someone going to notice about my balding and it's going to make me feel like really uncomfortable or really insecure? I know, if I use this minoxidil every day, then that will hold on to the hair. There's less, so I can, in my mind, feel there's less chance that this fear is going to occur. Go about my day, okay, and just keep going. But there's a problem with the safety behaviors, like the minoxidil. You have to keep using them, okay? You don't just then stop, like, for a week, and then you're like, oh, nah, like, I don't really worry about that anymore. You're locked in then. Once you adopt these safety behaviors, again, for Taylor, it was the fringe, okay? Once he was locked into that fringe, keeping the balding hidden, he had to keep doing that because that was a thing that in his mind was reducing that anxiety. This is so important to understand. The safety behavior of the fringe made him feel comfortable so that he could, I don't know, play football, go out with friends or just talk nicely to his girlfriend, whatever, and not be in his head worrying about the balding. But then if he didn't have that long fringe style, the anxiety is right up there. You get stuck using these safety behaviors to just feel normal, to feel good. And that is the problem. And that's probably the situation that you're in now while you're watching this content, while you're on Baldcafe videos and things, because you're stuck in this anxiety balding cycle where you're attached to these safety behaviors, but you're also, but you're afraid basically, and you're stuck in this cycle. You have to keep using these things, okay, to feel good or to feel less anxious that balding's going to ruin your life. You become dependent on them. You get stuck. And that's the problem with all these safety behaviors. It doesn't matter which one you're using. Hair fibers, surgeries, the hair system, all of it. So here's Taylor stuck in that anxiety cycle.
Even though the the minoxidil, trying to stay out of water, not going swimming around places, wind and bits and pieces like that.
So this is the problem when you're in this situation now. Avoiding wind, avoiding water. Well, probably when he's playing his football, it's impacting his mind because he can't concentrate on what he's doing. Had a guy recently who was a jiu-jitsu guy, and he couldn't even do that properly anymore because he was thinking like, no, like I can't knock my hair, like I can't get involved with these things. Is how balding really negatively impacts your life. Okay, it's these ways that you're using these safety behaviors, you get stuck in this anxiety cycle, okay? And when you're doing that, you can't live life freely. You can't just go dive in the swimming pool. You can't just go on holiday and not take all these little products and things with you. You can't just sit in a restaurant anywhere and have like people around you or under the spotlight. And these are the small little ways that balding really, really impacts your life and honestly like ruins your quality of life. Okay, it ruins your relationships, it ruins your enjoyment, it ruins your development as a guy, hobbies, stuff you want to do, achieve, work, like literally every aspect. And that's what Taylor's going to get onto here.
You don't realize how mentally and physically draining it becomes over a long period of time. It consumed me so much that I ended up kind of just, not feeling like the same person I always was. It was like, it just felt like a stress that was unneeded and like a massive burden. It made me feel like I'm a different person. I got to a stage where I was always thinking about it, thinking that everyone's looking at me and my hair, even though that would never be the case.
Maybe you can relate to that. Okay, I know I can. This anxiety cycle, the thoughts, is everyone looking at me? It just becomes consuming and it changes you. It turns you into this insecure person that you weren't before. Okay, that you weren't this insecure person. We'll quickly mention it. Okay, essentially, if you see it as two roads, as like accepting balding and just going bald like me, or you try to like fight hair loss and you get surgery and you take all the medications or whatever, you have to recognize that actually they're one and the same, of they are solving the same issue, which is this psychological pain of balding. Okay, so there's literally two roads that you take. Okay, and this is why I feel quite passionate about talking on this subject, is because you can genuinely solve this balding issue, I argue, better with fully being able to accept it, because there's no like upkeep on that. There's no ifs, there's no buts. Okay, once you solve the psychological impact. The problem I have with the other route, which is like going down the concealing route and masking the balding with, again, with like surgery or whatever, is there's a level of upkeep with that, right? You have to keep on top of it. And for me, in my opinion, that very much keeps the balding issue alive, right? Because you know that you have to maintain it. And some people say, oh, it's one pill a day or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not the time that it takes to take the medication or whatever. It's the psychological thing of you knowing that that's a thing in your life. Okay, but I digress slightly. The thing with these two options is the guy who goes and has surgery, let's say, after the surgery, how has he solved his problem? Okay, has he really cured his balding? Or does he now just feel like, okay, look, the balding is disguised well with this surgery, so now my anxiety and my fears over what's going to happen to me or what might happen to me in my life, okay, people like Taylor said there, people looking at me weird, things like that, has been reduced because I feel in my head that, well, I'm no longer that much visibly balding, so I can relax about that. And then the guy's like, oh, this has changed my life. I've never felt so confident. That's why. It's because he's no longer feeling anxious about all these bad things happen to him, because it's balding, because of balding, okay? And with acceptance, you achieve the same, again, I argue, greater relief from the real problem of balding, which is the anxiety, because you face it, okay? If I fear, oh no, if I'm balding, okay, and I go on Tinder or I go to a nightclub, okay, and people see it, are they going to think I'm old and weird? I rock up to the club looking like this, bald, and I interact with people. Does anyone act weirdly around me? No. Maybe if I'm single in that position, right, let's chat to a few women, let's see what happens. Do I get a number? Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, so is my life over because I'm going bald? No. And I have direct evidence for it because I've confronted the fear and all of this anxiety that I harbored during this cycle, okay, where my safety behaviors kept me stuck in, has gone. Okay, literally problem solved. And that's why I feel so passionate about this, because all it took was a little bit of discomfort, okay, to face this, to remove these safety behaviors, okay. You confront the anxiety, okay, or anxieties, and recognize you can totally handle it, and you literally never worry about it again, okay. That's essentially how this happens, how you get over it. Let's hear how Taylor did it.
And kind of pointing and going ha ha in their head, but it's like, well, it's not the case. It's more, you're probably more aware of it than basically 99% of the people around you. All the time I was looking at it and going, what's the fix to all this minoxidil whilst doing all that stuff? It's like, well, that's doing a pretty good job in my opinion, but it's not doing everything that I want it to. What's the other thing? So you get stuck into content and you go, oh, obviously you've got to go fly the way to Turkey to get like a hair transplant. And then you get that algorithm stuck in and you go, well,
okay, so maybe you two have had this algorithm, where it seems like there's two options here. Do I fight it? Do I try to cure it? Whatever. Do I get surgery? Or, could I maybe accept this?
I was thinking about, I literally ran out of my last bit of minoxidil, go to the shops, and at the self-serve checkout, they've got these kind of like little security cameras. And I looked at my face, and with the most highest definition you'll ever see, it's looking at my hair and going, what the f am I doing? Whilst it was something that I was like always thinking about in the months prior, whether it be getting Snapchat filters of, a buzz cut or a bald filter saying, how's my head shape going to look after it? Kind of preparing myself for what it might look like. In my mind's like, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
A couple of things we can learn from Taylor here. He already started to have some thoughts, like where he was on the fence, which road am I going to go down? And he did the classic, some guys, they'll maybe cover their hairline like this to sort of be like, how am I going to look bald? Some do the Snapchat filter, okay, to be like, oh, is this going to look okay? Like, how is this going to look? One thing you need to know, okay, the fastest way for you to know how it's going to look, and again, confront that anxiety over that, is to see it with your own eyes, okay? There's no better solution. You need to know that, okay? But this helped Taylor probably get a bit of courage. You can see that with the filter on and be like, you know what? Like maybe this is going to look okay. So that was something that helped Taylor there. He had what I call his point of no return, where he's in the supermarket and you finally see it for what it is. Now, this is something that I take you through on baldcafe.com. Okay, by the way, if you want help with all this, like, that is the place to go. If you want me to walk you through this, give you a one-on-one consultation so that I can help you through your sticking points exactly. If you want to learn exactly what works for all of these guys that I've spoken to over the years, okay, go to baldcafe.com and I can help you there directly. But the thing with Taylor here is he had that like outer body experience where you see the situation for the first time about what it truly is. And you finally see all of these safety behaviors that you've been doing, all of these anxiety cycle things, okay? But the problem is, okay, he'd been doing this for years and it had been eating away at his life, okay, spoiling those moments that he should have been enjoying. And this is why, again, I feel so strongly about taking guys through this. Again, the classic question, is it time? We'll talk about that in another video. But in the book, in the Power Shift book, again, on baldcafe.com, I take you through that questionnaire so that you can see very clearly, like, is it time? I don't need this ruining my life anymore. I need to get out of this anxiety cycle. And for Taylor, it was that moment in the supermarket. And maybe you've already had your moment where you felt, I can't keep going on like this, where you know you need to make the change.
In the bathroom, I remember sitting there. I was probably sitting in the bathroom for what felt like four hours, but it was probably more 45 minutes. I was just standing there with clippers in my hand. I was going, I've just got to do it. And I was like kind of holding it there up and down, kind of not doing it, not flicking it on, going, what would this look like? And the head shape and all that stuff. And
Those are probably the questions that are keeping you stuck as well. So you should know, again, from Taylor's experience, very normal. Okay, we all worry about the same things. How am I going to look? Am I going to have a weird shaped head? Okay, again, in the book, I can show you why that's probably not the case.
click, you hear your razor start going, making the humming noise and go, went straight down the middle. It's like, well, I can't stop now. Got half all the way down there. And it was just a huge sense of relief that went down my entire body where I'm like 2 years of kind of worry and stress and, just kind of that poor self-esteem just went out the window and going, finish it all off and then go, what was I worrying about?
What do we need to know from Taylor's example here? Him shaving his head was him confronting that anxiety, breaking the anxiety cycle. Why? Because with shaving his head, going bald, he could no longer use his safety behavior that he had become so attached to, which was the long fringe. He got rid of it. And what does that make you do? It forces you to confront the anxiety. And when you do that, you can dispel them. You can get rid of the fear. You have to confront it to be able to prove to your own brain that you no longer need to be in fear of these things, okay? And with that, we talk about this freedom. He's saying there, like 2 years of being stuck, afraid, just went. Okay, just went because he finally confronted it. Okay, and this is the problem with all these safety behaviors that are promoted to us as balding men. Hey, just dap these little fibers in. Like, hey, even barbers who mean well, but they're like, yeah, bro, like, I'll help you disguise that. I know they mean well, but actually, it's not doing you any favors. It's keeping you stuck.
It's been such a, godsend because it's something I don't even think about now.
Okay, he shaves his head. He gets rid of those safety behaviors.
There's moments where you'd have friends of mine, where my hair is kind of manufactured to the utmost style just to kind of accentuate and make myself feel better. And you go out and you get a ruffle of the hair from your on the head from your friend and go like, oh, you just ruined my entire life. Thank you very much. And
again, okay, he's going on here to just describe a bit in the balding phase, and again, use this to look at your own life. Can you just go down the pub or hang out with mates and just not worry about anything because there's no secret going on? When you've got this, as he described it, this manufactured sort of hairstyle going on, there's always going to be that fear that, yeah, he says there, your mate's going to like ruffle it up and kind of expose it. They're going to compromise the safety behavior, which what happens then? The anxiety, okay, goes up and you're confronted with this balding problem. That's why these safety behaviors don't work
very much
long term.
The main one when you look at it is what other people think. It's not more what you think. I was really comfortable with the decision of going, oh, this is something I want to do. I've got no fears of, basically shaving the noggin and seeing how it looks. But it was worried about how other people would perceive it.
Worrying about friends and family's opinions, what would they think was a fear, slight anxiety that Taylor felt, okay, that kind of kept him stuck, kept him from just ripping it off and going for it. So what we can learn there is just have a think about your situation. What is it that is really keeping you stuck? What are these main anxieties, these main fears that you are feeling in your balding situation that are keeping you stuck, keeping you using these safety behaviors? And how, okay, I'm going to put it there, how are they impacting your life in a negative way? How is being stuck in this anxiety cycle of balding, okay, negatively impacting your life? In the video course that is part of baldcafe.com, part of this offering that I put out there to help you through your own situation, one of the first things that I talk you through is you sitting down, okay, and really identifying what it is that you're afraid of. It's a very important step, okay? And if you want me to walk you through that, go to baldcafe.com. It's all there and I'll do it for you. That was Taylor's story, boys, okay? That is how he went from balding and insecure to bald, and as he said there, it's been like 6-7 months and he never even worries about it, never even thinks about it. It's very, very possible. I truly feel, okay, maybe not every man. It takes a certain type of man that can just totally move past this, okay? But it's the reality for so many of you watching this. I hope this helped you. Shout out to Taylor, okay, for sharing his story. I hope you appreciate this deep dive. If you want to know more of it, if you've got any questions, let me know. And again, if you want specific help with your situation, if you want me to help you walk through it like I have so many other guys now, baldcafe.com. Let's get started over there. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.